What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Gary Numan, and we're back to start the 1980 album Telekon. Thank you again to Han Solo for sharing, and the first track is this, Wreckage. So Wreckage can be more literal or figurative. If it is more literal or material, we could be talking a vehicle or a building or some other designed object that has been destroyed, mangled, or otherwise reduced to an inferior state compared to what it is supposed to be. Of course, wreckage can refer to, emotions or your personal disposition in the wake of some upsetting incident or experience. I expect, and I think people even mention, that the themes he's been exploring of biomechanical or indeed strictly mechanical persons and in a sci-fi sort of context continues, so I wouldn't be surprised if we have elements related to that hyper-reality relative to 1980s reality, and even still to this day, although AI is certainly becoming much more of a prominent and daily feature in the world of humanity and our technology. So yeah, I feel like maybe some of his work is as prescient as ever in 2025. Either way, let's see what I can pick up on a first listen. This is Gary Numan. The track is This Wreckage, and it's the opening song on his 1980 album Telecon. Long rests. Almost like an alert. That Newman sound. Hand clap. Bit of dark smoke at the bottom of the track.
What if God's dead? We must have done something wrong. This dark facade ends. We're independent from someone. This wreckage I call me would like to frame your voice. This wreckage I call me would like to meet you soon. We write suggestions, suggesting fade into silence, and that must please you. My mirror astonished with know-how. This wreckage I call me would like to frame your voice. This wreckage I call me would like to meet you soon. Whoa. I need to. I need to. I need to. This wreckage I call me would like to bring your voice. This wreckage I call me would like to leave you, leave you, leave you, leave you soon.
Indeed, it's fading, but I feel like I could go on longer. So I feel like those big vocal explosions, that's like the number one biggest I think I've ever heard him sing, and secondarily the most, or rather the least robotic or mechanical I've ever heard his vocals, the most like traditional or sonorous of his vocal delivery. And that's not a criticism. I've come to understand that his vocal delivery is part of the atmosphere and indeed the songs that he's crafting, which again, many of which have this futuristic, biomechanical, android-like character. But yeah, I was surprised the first time that came in, and then the second time I was sort of waiting for it, and it's, still very exhilarating. So yeah, I like the expansion of his vocal work in this one, and I feel like we are very much in the similar type of territory. I don't know exactly what's happening, but if this wreckage is I call me, which I like that. I didn't predict that in advance, but of course, again, you could view that more, let's say, traditionally or figuratively, the idea of someone being an emotional wreck or, being in a bad place in their life. But with his typical lyrical themes, I'm thinking of it as an android that has, had its eyes wiped from its face, or is in a non-functional or at least not a fully functional state. But there also seems to be some dynamic about him wanting to break free of or be independent of some other entity or person. And given that we just listened to engineers before, I'm thinking of a creator versus a created, an idea that an AI or an android would eventually want to make decisions for itself, not just based on its own programming, or indeed to rewrite its own programming. And I wonder again if the raise that we heard, which seemed to be in both directions, is not R-A-I-S-E-D, but R-A-Z-E-D, like to raise something, to wipe it away and bulldoze it to eventually build something else in its place. So I feel like there's some lines that I'm not quite sure how they all stitch together, but it feels like we are in this sci-fi android biomechanical domain that he typically works in, but again with the idea of the created wanting to establish its own identity, even if it is now been reduced to something previous to or inferior to what it was previously, that this is a wreckage, but perhaps one that because of that can now stake out its own identity or behavior or decision making. So maybe I'm off base with that, but I really enjoyed this one. Again, it had that typical Numan sound of these high, almost like celestial type of electronic sounds and synths, but also that deep sort of groovy heavy bass, which I feel like in one way that's indicative of a lot of what I've heard from him sonically, and yet it still felt not unlike his vocals, like this one was a bit evolved. And I do remember when I was going through the Pleasure Principle, a few people were saying, just wait till you get to Telecon, he takes it to another level. And in a small way, very small sample size, I feel like I caught a bit of a sense of that again on multiple levels in this opening track. So yeah, very excited for the rest of the album. Thank you again to Han Solo and to Mark and others who've commented on the Gary Numan journey so far. Let me know what you think of this, and I will see you next time. Peace.